It's a time of massive upheaval in the UK. The Queen is dead, long live the King. The cost of living crisis is spiralling out of control, and we have a new Prime Minister whose body language would indicate that she is an alien afraid of being caught at any moment. With all that in mind, and because I know many of you look to me for comfort and brotherly advice in times of strife, I thought it best that I address one of the key issues that I'm sure, like many of you, is keeping me up at night. Don't Worry Darling is a psychological science fiction thriller film. Directed by Olivia Wilde, it tells the story of a housewife living in an experimental utopian community who begins to question whether a disturbing secret is hiding underneath the pristine linoleum. It came out on Friday, I've seen it, and it is by and large bang average. It's got a decent premise, Stepford Wives meets Get Out, and it's got that kind of mid-century modern aesthetic that would have had 2014 interior design Tumblr absolutely dripping. It's engaging, if hokey, and generally well acted. I would say it's absolutely well worth a trip to the theatre, if only for the opportunity to see a real film movie. Reviews have generally hovered around the 2 and 3 star mark and seem to be of the opinion that while the film has promise, it asks questions that the director isn't yet sufficiently equipped to properly explore. Kind of like a nice entry into your resume, let's see what you do next. So far, so standard, it's like your average September release. However, the release of Don't Worry Darling has come alongside a unique type of drama. It's drama that ranges from the simple high school he said, she said, to the kind of unhinged speculation that I assume will end in a 6-part true crime podcast about the existence of a wad of spit. At various times, I've been both entertained and unnerved by the, I'm gonna say it, feral nature of this gossip. And now that I've seen the film, I'm particularly intrigued by the ways in which its exploration of sexual politics is mirrored in the way pop culture has responded to the drama. Now, you may be a person watching this video who does things with your life, and as such is unaware of the drama, and we can't be having that. So strap in, here's a brief recap. The facts are these. After the huge success of her debut film Booksmart, Hollywood was desperate to work with Olivia Wilde again. The film had an incredibly fresh, modern sensibility, and if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you seek it out. Oh, but I can't find it on any streaming platforms, Dan. Don't worry, I've got you covered with the help of this week's sponsor, Surfshark. Surfshark is a virtual private network that keeps your online identity safe by protecting your data. Very nice. It also allows you to change your virtual location, meaning you can travel across the world without having to leave your bed cave. This means you can access and unblock content libraries and streaming services from other countries. So if you want to watch Booksmart on Netflix, then grab your hockey sticks and make a nice steaming bowl of poutine because we're heading to Canada! Virtually. Good, eh? Now you can laugh and cry at a story of friendship and love and hopes and dreams and being left out of parties. Thank you, Surfshark. Surfshark also encrypts your online data and helps to secure your personal info when you use free public Wi-Fi. And further, it does not monitor, track, or store what you do online, and you can use one account on an unlimited number of devices. Smashing. If you sign up to Surfshark today, you'll get a whopping 83% off and an extra 3 months for free! And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee so you can try the service risk-free. So follow the link in the old description and tweet me a big thank you when you've seen Booksmart. And trust me, you're gonna wanna thank me. Back to the main story. The announcement that Olivia Wilde's next film was gonna be a psychological thriller for the Me Too era led to a massive bidding war. 18 studios got involved in the auction, including Netflix, Apple, and MGM, before New Line Cinema won with a promise of a wide theatrical release. And they have delivered. Good for them. Things got even more exciting when the film was given an all-star cast, including Wilde herself, Chris Pine, Florence Pugh, and Shia LaBeouf. Before filming began, it was announced that LaBeouf was leaving the film due to scheduling conflicts, and he was replaced by one Harold Styles, formerly of One Direction, latterly of magazine stands across the world wearing fabulous outfits made of loud materials. The movie goes into production in late 2020, wraps in February 2021, and is lined up with a prime spot for a glamorous festival premiere in 2022. Everything's fine. But here's where we leave the IMDb trivia behind and move into the kind of material that will be floating around a dentist waiting room until the end of time. You see, in January 2021, Harry Styles and Olivia Wilde were seen holding hands. I know. Wilde had announced her split from husband Jason Sudeikis around the time the movie began shooting, and while the new couple have been relatively quiet about their relationship, it has nonetheless been splattered all over the tabloids. As the film's release date came closer, the publicity campaign began in earnest with Wilde very much at the fore. She spoke openly about approaching the film on and off screen with an unabashedly feminist agenda. Part of that agenda, she asserted, was the decision to recast Shia LaBeouf. According to Wilde, his process was not conducive to the ethos I demand in my productions. Ultimately, my responsibility is to the production and to the cast to protect them. LaBeouf responded to this with an open email written to Wilde and published in Variety, suggesting that not only was the decision to exit the project his own, but that Wilde had actively tried to keep him attached to the project. And attached to the email were screenshots of private texts between the two and a video sent from Wilde to LaBeouf. In the video, Wilde suggests to Shia that his exit from this film
might be a bit of a wake-up call for Miss Flo,
referring to Florence Pugh, the other star of the movie, and reaffirms her desire to find a compromise between the actors. This raised more than a few eyebrows and caused quite a stir on Twitter.com, not least because the previous assertion from Wilde had been that the decision to fire LaBeouf came with Florence Pugh's safety in mind. It was soon reported that Pugh would not be taking part in the promotional activity for Don't Worry Darling beyond an appearance at the film's premiere at the Venice Festival. The official reason given for this was that Pugh was filming Dune Part 2, and of course travel between Arrakis and Italy at this time of year is a bloody nightmare. Meanwhile, rumours start flying all over the place that the relationship between Pugh and Wilde wasn't the most harmonious on set. There were rumours of a pay disparity between Florence Pugh and Harry Styles. That's been denied. There were also rumours that Florence didn't take kindly to Wilde and Styles' relationship because she was friends with Jason Sudeikis. That's also unverified. A lot of these rumours are either unverified or denied. It's just that it's the internet, so if you see it retweeted, it's probably true. Back to the timeline, we are now officially in Venice. The film festival is underway. The Campari is flowing like the canals, and here's where the drama goes from mildly intriguing to completely unhinged. The press conference begins, Miss Flo is not present, and Olivia fends off the inevitable questions by blaming the tabloids and the internet, and to be fair, she's not wrong. Immediately afterwards, Florence Pugh walks around Venice in resort wear, sipping a spritz, and being the human embodiment of unbothered, in a performance that I think is, in and of itself, worthy of an Oscar. During one junket appearance, Chris Pine appears to astral project, leaving his human form behind to stare blankly ahead, while Harry utters what is still the funniest phrase I've heard all year.
You know, my favorite thing about the movie is, like, it feels like a movie. It feels like a real, like, you know, go to the theatre film, movie.
And finally, everyone shows up to the red carpet premiere looking fabulous. People read miles too far into where everyone is standing in the group photo, and they all head inside, where I imagine Olivia is so relieved the film can finally start speaking for itself that she lets out a sigh so powerful it could be harnessed by a wind farm. Except the internet has other ideas, and that's where the pièce de résistance of this whole shit show comes roaring into prominence. Because Twitter goes hog wild over a clip that they believe shows Harry Styles taking his seat at the premiere, but not before spitting on Chris Pine. And I have to say that if you actually believe Harry did do a spit, that at the world premiere of his film, in front of the international press, Hollywood executives, a bunch of cameras, hundreds of people, and his girlfriend, the director of the film, he thought, this is maybe my one opportunity to do a gob on Chris Pine, then I have a pyramid scheme I want to tell you about. It does look like he did it though. Then everyone goes their separate ways. Florence picks up Timmy Chalamet You Stay and they swan off to ride a sandworm. Harry goes back to singing about watermelons, and Olivia, I hope, takes the world's longest bath because the girl deserves a break. Now, here's where I become a bit of a killjoy, because while I enjoy the high camp of it all, and I do, Florence and her spritz are going to sustain me through the cold, dark winter, it's fascinating to me that a film whose central theme is sexual politics in a patriarchal society is being overshadowed by a drama who is caused in no small part, I feel, by those same sexual politics. Firstly, Hollywood and the world at large love a catfight, so it's unsurprising that gossip columns across the world have rubbed their hands at this, which is a story that pits two women at the height of their career directly against each other. And it's worth noting that Olivia has been hugely outspoken, bordering on reverent, over Miss Flo's talent. And by the way, it's worth saying that Florence Pugh is magnificent in this film. She is without a doubt the finest actor of her generation, and we are lucky to be witness to her gift. And that's not to say that there isn't tension between the pair of them, but I mean, workplace tension isn't entirely uncommon, and I know it's fun to read between the lines, but I just wonder whether or not it's foolish to paint someone's entire character because of it. And it strikes me that when we talk about things like Christian Bale's outburst on the set of Terminator Salvation, or David O. Russell's, well, in his entire career, to be honest with you, those moments are often consumed as scandal in the moment, but then we let them go and we're back to talking about what a genius they are. To that end, there's also something striking, I think, in the way that Shia LaBeouf's rebuff has been framed. For context, years of scrutiny over, to put it politely, a chaotic public persona, has culminated in a lawsuit filed by musician FKA Twigs, alleging a great deal of abusive behaviour in their relationship. Putting a pin in that, and frankly it would have to be an industrial-sized pin, and even zooming out a bit, I just find it uncomfortable the way that the media, the tabloids, the internet at large has responded to an unconsenting release of private messages that have been stripped of all context and is now using those as a weapon against Olivia Wilde. Makes me feel a bit weird. Don't Worry Darling is a film about challenging the given narrative and not blindly accepting what powerful people want us to believe. So it's interesting to me that Shia LaBeouf, who is currently on a podcast redemption tour, is being taken at face value, while Olivia is being disregarded. She has been, to be clear, far from flawless in all of this. However, it does point to the fact that women are generally held to a higher standard. It's the old Ginger Rogers doing it in heels and backwards line. It's a snappier line when other people say it. Meanwhile, let's pivot to lovely Harold for a moment. He's a charismatic figure that exists as the male idol in the flamboyant mould of Elvis. He's built his brand on playing openly with notions of genderfuck and ambiguous sexuality, for which he's been praised and criticised in equal measure by people on all sides of the political spectrum, by the way. Harry Styles has been built to Olympus levels by the popular culture machine, and as a society, when we've managed to do that, we are inclined to watch them fall. It's like you either die a hero or you live long enough to see the people who made you that hero push you off a cliff. There's a fascination with finding the flaw in Harry that I can't help feel is magnified thanks to the provocative way he presents himself, his ambiguous sexuality, and the fact that his star is powered by a predominantly young, female-identifying audience. It can be found in article after article that's coming out now saying, Harry, stick to music. Slay in your lane, Harry, but only the lane we want to give you. By virtue of his audience demographic, Harry Styles is the poster child for parasocial relationships. His fans eat, sleep, and breathe him, from his music to his style, to his relationships, and you can understand why. It's been baked into the way his brand has been cultivated. He is a shiny superstar who makes a point of challenging expectations and by extension allows us to challenge them too. It's lovely. And the vast majority, it must be said, take part in that relationship in a healthy way. But the ones who don't take that to a bizarre and extreme level and seem to have taken Harry's relationship with Olivia Wilde as a personal insult, almost like you've taken Harry Styles away from us. This subsect of fans feel not just a fellowship with Harry, but an ownership of him. I would imagine they argue it's, I'm just being protective over him, he's a sensitive soul, which is belittling at best and a horrendous cliche while we're at it. But even the most generous reading of this dynamic doesn't justify the way in which these fans approach Harry's relationships as a source of fury. In this instance, everything from Olivia Wilde's looks to her parenting have been attacked, going so far as to accuse her of neglect and even grooming, because Wilde is the elder of the couple. And to draw another parallel, if we hold this up alongside constant jokes about Leonardo DiCaprio dumping girls when they hit 25, we can see that one is seen as kind of meme fodder that we move on from, and the other is seen as a cause for active harassment. Speaking of harassment, and this one makes my blood boil a little bit, in April 22, while speaking at CinemaCon, Wilde was interrupted in the middle of her speech to be served custody papers from her ex-husband. While Sudeikis maintains that he had no knowledge of this plan, the optics of a woman standing on stage only to be accosted and handed papers relating to her motherhood while she's trying to do her job, it's quite ick. It feels incredibly uncomfortable and a bit threatening, and I do not feel in any way that if this was a man, he would suffer the same indignity. And on the topic of professionalism, I have been thinking a lot about Olivia's work and her ethos and the way that it's been raked over the coals. I mean, it's true that she's made a load of bold and brash statements about the film and about her process and about her credentials. She's happily said a number of things to poke and prod and make light of the tenets of masculinity, because that's what the film is designed to do. She even shared a few mood boards she created for her characters, and look, I know they're a bit graphic design is my passion, but that's hardly cause to burn the woman as a witch. I think my problem with this is that it's not just like she said some dumb stuff and we've all rolled our eyes and gone, yeah, alright Liv, we'll see you when the movie comes out. It's that because she's spoken so confidently about it and because people are inclined to dislike her, there's a glee with which these average reviews are being received. Like, the reviews aren't saying this is a bad film, they're saying that this is a perfectly fine film that could be better, could be a little bit tighter, but there is something about the idea of her getting her comeuppance. It's a little bit like, that'll teach you. It just makes me feel uncomfortable, alright? I don't like it. Her male colleagues make mad statements all the time. When Jared Leto talks about sending people a bunch of live rats in a box, we're like, oh, Jared. And we laugh and we joke and we do memes all over the place, and then he books his next movie. And very few of the think pieces and the hot takes seem to take joy in the idea of his world unraveling. I don't know, I just feel like it's all well and good enjoying drama, and there is something about this drama that is intriguing, I think probably because of how mad and wide-ranging it is. But there's enjoying a little gossip and a cocktail, and then there's being the girl with the burning house in the background, you know? I think the ending of Don't Worry Darling is its biggest weakness. I feel like the director failed to stick the landing. She's rushing through answers to the questions she's asked and not giving her ideas and messages room to breathe. I left the cinema trying to clear the fog and rearrange what I think I'd just seen rather than branching off into new ideas. But while I was at home and ruminating on the film, I just kept coming back to this idea of deep irony. I think it's a shame that a film designed to raise questions about looking beyond the surface of what we're presented, or buying into a hive mind narrative, or the struggles and conflicts of masculinity and femininity within themselves in an evolving society, is falling prey to those very issues. Thank you very much for watching. Please do pop any thoughts you have in the comments. I'd love to have an engaging, thoughtful conversation with nuance. Would you believe nuance exists? I still believe. Thank you very much to Surfshark for sponsoring the video. Don't forget the link is in the description for 83% off and 3 extra months for free. And I will see you next week, where I will be baking cakes because I want to feel happy about the world. And so should you.